Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of The Reboot. What is The Reboot? Well, you know what? We're getting so accustomed to working from home that some of us are forgetting what's going to be like back in the office. But we are talking about that over here at OpenGov. Let's talk about what the new norm is going to look like because we are learning so much every day. Not only are businesses learning how to function remotely with all the entire workforce from home, but the employees are also adapting to this new environment. They're making their houses into new offices. What about the technology? Is it really helping and coping with what we're doing, or are we just adapting and adjusting to it and being a little bit more giving in this time? I'd like to introduce our panelists who will share their views on this. Klaus Felsch, who is the ex-director for analytics for Immigration Border Protection from Canberra. I got Anurag Madan, the Chief Technology Officer from the Ministry of Social Development in New Zealand. Then Mankyu Leong, who is the Deputy Director, Institute of System Sciences NUS from Singapore. And Rohan Wickramasinghe, who is the Head of Technology Risk at a leading insurance company in Australia. A diverse background of individuals who will be sharing their view on what the reboot is going to look like. Klaus, please kick us off.
Hello, everybody. It appeared to me a little while ago that while we're dealing with all of our current problems, we tend to be distracted by day-to-day things. And what we should really be doing is to focus on the future. And one of the critical things to try and do is to actually learn the lessons from what is happening around us right now. So there are lots of things that are happening that a few weeks ago even were not considered possible. In Australia, the telehealth system was scheduled for release sometimes in 10 years' time. Well, it took a few weeks, and we now have a telehealth health system operational. So how did we cut 9.5 years off the development and rollout time? We should learn the lessons from that. There are many similar examples around the place. So what I'm just suggesting is that all of us as professionals need to just keep watching what is going on and see if we can take the positives out of what is happening. Why are we getting better at doing certain things that we didn't think was really possible before this crisis? What can we preserve from those lessons and take into the future with us? So that's the main thing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree with that concentration on the positive, because you're right, we are all stuck in a very, very dark place right about now, and we're still trying to keep work going. Anurag, your take, please, on this?
Well, it has been quite an interesting sort of last few weeks, where one of my observations is that the pace of change that we have all been observing, where things take a long sort of gestation period before you go ahead and move an organization from a state A to state B. We have seen, and I've quoted in some of my conversations, a decade's worth of change happen in weeks, where people have moved, without any resistance, and actually embraced and demanded more of what we've always been trying to achieve. And to a certain extent, that it has started putting pressure on the technologists around the world to try and meet that demand. In the middle of all the crisis and the global lockdown, if I can use that word, that we are all in. It is certainly testing the appetite of the politicians, of the chief executives, of all the other sort of leaders in sort of the private sector, where they have to now really make a very quick and swift shift to adjust to this new paradigm. There are lots of challenges, there are lots of questions that people will ask. There are solutions, and we have got the capability in us as human beings, as we have evolved, to adjust and adapt and actually capitalize and not let this crisis go to waste.
Interesting. Again, thanks for that. Rohan, what's your take on this?
I was pleasantly surprised at the level of calm that businesses within FS here addressed the situation and got on with it. We had situations in most cases where everyone was required to work from home, and we did do a lift and shift of personnel critical services and technology, and we just got on with it. Yes, there've been challenges, but business productivity, I think generally from where I sit and what I've seen with our competitors and within our current business is work has been progressing. We've had a regulator that has been relatively reasonable in terms of allowing businesses to prepare and change given the current circumstances. So things around privacy, data security, whilst it's important, there is an appreciation that it's going to take a bit of time to get systems and capabilities up to a level that's appropriate to cater for the current world that we're currently working in. So in that sense, to reiterate what the others have said, we've got on with it. There hasn't been a huge amount of panic from where I sit. Obviously, there's concern from a personal standpoint, families and friends, etc. But from a work perspective, people are getting on with the job that they're supposed to do as best as they can.
Right. That's awesome. Monkey, your take, please.
Well, I'm in education, so one of the fun things is that it's not just the working people, it's everybody. Students in school, whoever wants to learn something, the opportunities are still there. I think certain platforms have become ubiquitous, but the other end, you have to think about the other end as well, not just the provider end, but the receiving end, where we're looking at so many different capabilities, the ability to make do, not just making do, right? The rest of the panel has been talking about making do, but the reality, of course, it boils down to, say, a family at home. They've got 3 children, and the 3 children have to go to school from home. They have 1 laptop, 1 phone, and 1 iPad or 1 tablet, and they're making do. And I think that's pretty much epitomizes this crisis and some of the lessons we understand of the resilience of the people.
Interesting. So the fact that all 4 of you, respectfully, from Australia, New Zealand, okay, and Singapore, are saying to me that, hey, we just got on with it. Is it fair for me to assume that the moment the so-called lockdown disappears or closes, and will it become business as usual? We all go back to the lifestyle that we've had and enjoyed for all our lives, apart from the last 6 to 8 or 10 weeks? What's your take on that, Klaus?
I certainly hope not.
Okay.
I think that there will be a new normal in the way of operating, but I think if we forget what we have learned, both good and bad things from this process, then we deserve to face another crisis in a very few years, and it will hit hard, and it will hit equally as bad, as badly, and more importantly, people will ask the question, why didn't we learn from the last one?
Interesting.
Those questions are already being asked about SARS and COVID-19. I think won't be able to answer those questions unless we actually learn from what's going on around us at the moment.
So what is the learning? Is the learning that we need to be stocked up with face masks and gloves and sanitizers, Rohan, or is it something else?
I think it's going to be mixed. I took a very corporate view in terms of non-panic. I think there's definitely been panic from a personal perspective in terms of stock buying for toilet rolls and sanitizer, etc., starting to taper off a little bit. But I don't think we've fully addressed, how we keep a level of calm within society when these things happen. And if it were to happen again, are we going to see another case where people are going to panic buy, across the board? And for a kind of first world country, I was a bit disappointed with the behaviour of how we operated, within society. And look, we saw it across the globe in differing ways. So, to answer your question, look, I hope we do change. I hope we do learn. But look, there's going to be facets of society and corporations that don't and want to go back to 2019 because they want to forget what happened now. And there'll be businesses that factor this into design. We will factor this into design from a personal point of view in terms of how we live and learn. And from a business point of view, we factored into our BCP, into our BCMs, into the way we operate. And I know for our company, we are now starting to think about our BCM strategy because we had never considered a pandemic before. So if you look at your disaster recovery in terms of having a site here in Sydney and a site in Melbourne, and say, well, what are the chances of them both getting blown up? Well, if you look at it from a pandemic point of view, yeah, it's quite high actually, depending on where your hotspots are, which are currently Sydney and Melbourne. So we've been talking about those things, and we need to consider them. So I think you're going to have differing responses across society. I don't think there's a one size fits all.